Meditation with me. Yeah.
Chelsea brought over a friend. That's a good girl.
Mic check. We'll go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon. Welcome to all of you who are able to make it down today. We appreciate that. We're also live streaming, so welcome to anyone joining us via the internet. It's nice to be able to have that option, and it's really nice to see everybody in person after 2+ years of dealing with COVID and not being able to gather together. So for many reasons, it's a special to be together today. We are here to celebrate the life of Barbara Catudal. She passed away on January 2nd, which wasn't a time to have this. So we waited until now, and I think the weather has just opened up for us, and so we're very thankful for that. A few years with COVID and with Mom's physical and mental decline have been difficult for everybody, and especially for us. But today, I invite you to help us celebrate her very rich and vibrant life. So this gathering has been in the works for a while, and we're going to make this as joyous and uplifting as possible. And that's just how Mom would want it. So make sure that you, if you're thirsty, the drinks are on the deck. We didn't encourage you to get one beforehand, but don't be shy. Make sure you have your lottery ticket, because that could win you some big bucks. We hope Mom's going to help us with that. And we'll start off our service with a prayer for my husband, Chris.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. Lord God, you are the author of all seasons, the gale and the storms of life, but also the still and quiet waters. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Today, we seek your comfort and solace in this season of Barb's loss. Remind us that life is a gift and a mystery, and let us celebrate the season of Barb's life and her impact on all of us. While today's season is grief and pain, let us look ahead with Barb's memory etched in our hearts to a time when we will celebrate a new season and we will all laugh and dance together. Amen.
All right, so I've asked some people to give some tributes to Mom here, and so we're going to kick this off with the person who's known Mom for the longest, her brother Paul. So come on up here.
Your phone. I missed it by that. But there's notes right here. I take the notes.
I can't read mine.
Let's start again. Hello, my name is Paul Bolton, and I'm Barbara's sister. And I just wanted to add a few tributes to her life and some of the things she did. I got to give Cindy a lot of credit. She put a lot of the good information, facts about Barbara in this pamphlet, some of the things I was going to cover. But she was just a beautiful person, and she was very blessed. And we were both blessed with great parents. Little story on them. They also, too, were high school sweethearts and lived in Richmond, Missouri. And my dad came out here to Maryland, and they were married and came out here from Missouri to Maryland. He was working for DC Transit at the time during the war, and that had an exemption for him. But he at some point went ahead and volunteered in War II. He was injured in the war, shrapnel, and they settled back in Four Corners. And Barbara was born, I was born, and they were great parents. They really were. We always knew we were loved. We could make mistakes, and they would be forgiven. They always gave us good guidance and helped us shape our lives. Great parents, and I think that really shows in the kind of parenting that Cindy is doing, and I'm trying to do. And they were great people, and we also had some great aunts. We had a couple of great aunts that were on my dad's side. He was raised by an aunt, and they lived here in the D.C. area, and they were part of our Thanksgiving and Christmas traditions, along with some cousins that he had. So most dad's relatives were here in this area, which was a good thing. And so we had a rich family life at the holidays. And let's see. The story with Barb and Bob, they were sweethearts in high school. They took me along as a witness for their first attempted marriage. It did. Barbara had probably a really great driver's license, but they didn't accept that. She didn't bring her birth certificate. So we turned around.
Where'd we go, Paul? Where'd we go?
We went to North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken.
And did your mom and dad give us the car and you to get us there?
Yes, they did. Yeah, because that little 5440 you wouldn't have made it out of Maryland, probably. I don't want to embarrass you, but that's just the way it was. I need a little help here. If somebody wants to give me a couple more tidbits, we can play this a little better.
Nobody else knows.
I got another one. Anyhow, so that was the first marriage attempt, and Bob continued his hitch in the Navy, came back, and they were married, and they had a great life. Barbara was so talented. It's right here. Just some of the things she was doing. She's going to college, getting great grades in college, her business life, and also she was a giving person. I remember I was impressed when she was raising her children that she gave her time for the PTA, got involved in the schools, very active, and that inspired me. And my wife also was involved in school work as a teacher. And that sharing and that giving is just part of the way she was. She cared about people. She loved people. She loved her children. She was loved by her many friends over the years. And that's a tribute. God bless you, Barbara. She was such a nice person. And it's sad that she passed away. And as Cindy had said, her last few years were less than one would desire. If you have to leave this world, you left it slowly, inch by inch. I did bring one thing. We stayed together. Well, I backtrack just a bit. We had some great times growing up. I want to mention going back to Missouri, where my mother's brothers and sisters were, and we had that car trip each time was an ordeal, but a lot of fun. My aunt had a farm out there. I learned how to drive a tractor, shoot the 22. Barbara was out running around chasing the chickens and doing fun things, milking the cow. I mean, that's a skill that not many people have. And it was just a great visit. We had all of our cousins out there, a really close family. We were there 4th of July, celebrate this, that, different ceremonies and occasions. And we had our cousins that were from my mom's side of the family. And it was a great experience. We used to have the farm, and we went to Kansas City, Missouri, that area. Should have said that. That's a nice trip in a car for two kids, and it was a great experience. And again, we had visits back here, holidays with some of our aunts and uncles and cousins from my dad's side, and we also. I'm trying to think. Lost my train of thought there. But we did get along real well. And Barbara was also really instrumental in taking care of the aunts that we had and taking care of their needs and their nursing homes transition, and then helping settle their estate. She was just a giver. She would give anything to anybody, always helpful, never cross. And the way she passed away was sad. It was so slow. But I used to come down here near the last couple of years, and I would pick her up, and I'd get her out of the house, and take her to one of the local restaurants. And we just laugh and joke and talk. And she was very lucid then. And it got progressively worse, unfortunately. And Bob called me one morning after he'd said that she was not going to be with us much longer. And I had a chance to come here and visit with everybody. And she was not really conscious at the time, but Bob and Cindy retreated to the back room and gave me a couple of minutes of solace to talk to her and say my parting words with her, kiss her goodbye, and I'll remember that as long as I live. Thank you, Barbara.
And now I'd like to ask Rhonda Miller to come up and speak. She is Barbara's favorite and only niece, but emphasis on the favorite part here. So.
It was great to hear from Uncle Paul. I grew up knowing Barb's brother and his family very, very intimately, many family gatherings. And even though he wasn't a blood uncle, I always called him Uncle Paul. So good to see you. And it's great to have everybody out here joining us today. And thank you, Barb, for bringing the sunshine. I know she did it. I'm not quite as ad lib as Paul. I have written out what I want to say because it's very emotional for me, and I want to make sure I don't words. So Barb entered my life when I was an infant. In 1963, she had just turned 17 years old and was introduced to the Catudal family at a cookout at Bob's parents' house, which was my grandparents, in Tacoma Park. It wasn't long before Barb was employed to be occasional babysitter of the Catudal rascals. Bob likes to tell stories of how he loved to tease Barb by using my three older brothers, one of them who is here, Steve, and me. They were little boys at the time, and I was way down the line, the youngest. He used us as messengers. He would whisper in our ears as little kids and then send us off to spy on Barb in the kitchen. And at Bob's urging, we would shout, "You're a witch!" and run away. And of course, that was really, really funny at the time. Us kids felt like we were really getting away with something. But it sure did probably make us very endeared to Barb as yours. The day before my 4th birthday, 20-year-old Barb officially became my aunt. Although I have little memory of the wedding festivities, I was told that, surprisingly, my 3 older brothers, rambunctious as they were, and I were very well behaved, and one of them noted Bob approaching the altar, and while the audience was very quiet, listening for the vows to start, my brother shouted, "There's Bob!" So we were always a little bit on the rowdy side. I adored my Aunt Barbie, as I affectionately called her. I cherished our times together, gathered for family dinners at my grandparents' house. Aunt Barbie took a special interest in me. I was her only niece, only aunt. So we had a special relationship. She was very, which, not all adults got on their hands and knees and played. But as a child, Barb invited me over to her apartment with Bob for sleepovers in their first apartment and board games together. Aunt Barbie introduced me to her famous warm brews, 32-ounce tumblers of brewed iced tea, sweetened by a large sugar shaker filled with Sweet and Low. She was notorious for that. But one thing I'll never forget about that apartment was how intrigued I was to their bathroom. Because on the inside of the bathroom door was flanked with a poster of a very hairy hippie, bucket and sitting on the throne. I'll never forget that image. Aunt Barbie brought all of her creativity to me and entered my world. When I came for weekend visits, I carried my collection of Barbie dolls with me, and she would patiently measure, cut fabric, and sew beautiful clothes for them, which I cherished. But her artistic gifts didn't stop there. When I was in fourth grade, I read the book Robinson Crusoe. And Barbie took great interest in my book report project. And she sketched out detailed pencil drawings of Robinson Crusoe, his parrot, and his man Friday. And she really brought that story to life for me. And that's just how Barbie was. She just brought everything to life with her creativity. She was so creative. Every kind of imaginable art she attempted. She drew, she painted, she was into photography. In fact, she was involved and had a wedding photography business at one time. So many I couldn't even list. And she really took to writing. She expressed herself very, very well in words, both the written word and verbally. She even wrote several unpublished narrative that she 70s at grandfather's dinner table revealed her vision of what the book's cover would look like. She said, it would have a woman's bra proudly and freely blowing in the wind, strapped to the top of the flagpole at the White House. And this was Barb's novel was foretelling the first female U.S. president. So she was very progressive in her thinking. And I think she really tested my grandfather's patience, who was very conservative. Barb was, in fact, the first feminist in our family. 9 years a junior to my own mother, she came into the family with modern views influenced by 60s culture. Her liberal views of women's rights was often a contentious topic around my grandfather's dinner table. But I believe her outspokenness gave my conservative grandmother reason to pause and start to shift her views thanks to Barb's influence. Throughout my own primary years, Aunt Barbie was my only female relative to my mother and my grandmother. I remember repeatedly as a youngster begging her, Aunt Barb, please have a baby. I wanted so much to have cousins. I was so anxious, and I was the youngest child in the family without a playmate. The wait felt like forever as they were newlyweds. They waited quite a while, but soon I was blessed, beautiful first cousin, Cindy, baby Cindy, who came into my life just shortly before my 11th birthday, and I was about Lily's age time. Cindy became my favorite playmate. I was ecstatic. It didn't take her engaging dimples to win my heart. It was love even before first sight. When baby Cindy was brought home from the hospital, the female women gathered together and they decided Rhonda should be tasked with moving in with the family and helping take care of baby Cindy as a mommy's helper. So it was pretty scary. I remember how intimidated I felt. That was a very tall order for a very young child. But I went along, and I think I was probably more work than I was of a help. But Barb was so gracious. And she did say that having an extra set of hands to fetch diapers was helpful. But she gave me an opportunity to try out being a big sister. I had no sisters of my own. And so Cindy kind of target little sister for me. Once Bob and Barb moved in with Verdon, Barb's dad, or she affectionately called him, in Colesville, she would host both sides of the family, Barb's side and Bob's side, for Thanksgiving, dinner, and other holidays. And she often, Barb was very engaged, as Paul pointed out, with looking after her father's aunts, the two great old aunts who were elderly at the time, Aunt Ruth, as I called her, and Aunt Delpha. We, again, my family we have all of Barb's relatives as our own. And one Thanksgiving dinner comes to mind. Barb had a big gathering together and found that the turkey was so large it wouldn't fit in the oven. Remember that, Bob? How did we get it in the oven? Did you have to cut it up? You pounded the heck out of the turkey and darn made it fit. Yeah. And it was oldest brother, Donnie, came into the family gathering wearing a t-shirt that was actually quite controversial for 1970s. It had a marijuana leaf on the back of it. old Aunt Ruth leaned over to me. But Barb, with her humor, as she had a great sense of humor, she was able to convince old Aunt Ruth that Donnie had not committed a crime. So he was off the hook. My husband, Jerry, and I, along with our Alex and Ben, spent almost every Thanksgiving with Bob and Barbara and their girls. In fact, my whole life, I think I've spent most Thanksgivings, except for a stint of 12 years when I lived in California. And we would spend every summer here. We would, our family would vacation at the beach, and we had a tradition of on our way home, breaking the trip up and spending a night or two here at the bay, enjoying Bob's Burgers, and of course, crabbing here on the dock. So we have wonderful, wonderful memories of holidays and summers spent here. Bob and Barbara hosted our family. My husband, Jerry, and I, our families live out of state. His family is in Michigan. My parents and other brothers and their families live in California, so they're all far away. We didn't have the opportunity to spend holidays regularly with our surrogate family. Bob and Barbara became my surrogate parents, and they became surrogate grandparents to my two boys. They filled that gap, providing wonderful, wonderful memories here at their home, and took on a special role in our lives. In fact, every year at my children's school, the school would host what they called grandparents. Of course, this was kind of hard because both my children's set of grandparents, therefore, weren't able to attend the event. But Bob and Barbara, they came. They came and served as surrogate grandparents for young Ben, our youngest son. They spent the day touring the school, learning all about Ben's world, having lunch with him, and Ben was so proud to have Uncle Bob and Aunt Barbara by his side supporting him. That was a proud day for Ben, and a very, very special and meaningful gesture that we will always cherish. Thank you, Bob. Barb loves storytelling, as probably most of you know. Anyone who knows her knew that she had the gift of gab. I spent many, many visits hearing Barb recount, with Barb's unique brand of humor, endless tales of raising her two girls and all the mischief they got into and the shenanigans within the family. And she also shared many, many memories of her dad's years growing up on the farm in Missouri, and about all the folks in Missouri, all the relatives, cousins. So many of you, I think some of you are here, some of your relations are here. And while I never met you in person, I heard many wonderful stories. So it's a blessing to meet you finally. And of course, the antics of the two old gray aunts, sisters, Ruth and Delphi. Aunt Ruth, in fact, I have to point out Aunt Ruth because she was a trailblazer. Barbara should have written a novel about Aunt Ruth. I know she talked about it because Aunt Ruth had an amazing life story. She was a trailblazer, a spinster who left Missouri farm in the 1920s to come to D.C. to work as a law clerk, and somehow was able to practice law in D.C., like in the 1920s and 30s. I'm not sure what her educational background or what the requirements were. She had a law degree. So this was like really cool back in those days, right? So I think Aunt Ruth actually maybe she was the first feminist in the family, on Barb's side at least. So clearly she had a strong influence on Barb. And there's so many stories about Aunt Ruth and Aunt Delphi. I'll let somebody else tell those later. I would come to visit. In fact, every January I had a tradition after the holidays. I would come here and have like a little respite time to myself. When my kids were growing up, it was my time. I took a break from being a mom at home, and I came and visited Barb. And I would stay here for a few days and have this time together. We would sit in the two twin rocker recliners overlooking the bay and chatter away and just have girl time, gabbing. And of course, Barb would chatter late into the evening. And oftentimes I would kind of drift asleep and fight to keep it open. But she was filled with so many stories that I just cherish. Barb was my childhood playmate, but she grew into a lifelong confidant. As I grew into a woman, Barb grew into my ally and friend. I believe Barb is with us in different form. I think we will feel her in the breeze here at the bay as we look up at the sky and watch the eagles, which, as you know, is one of her pastimes. We'll recount Barb and the memories and the beautiful legacy that she left through Bob's jokes and humor, through Cindy, who's also inherited the same sense of humor, and Cindy's love, life, and Michelle, her beautiful daughters, the contributions they are making in the world today, and the legacy that Cindy is passing on now to her three beautiful, wonderful, accomplished children who are just such a blessing to me. I was just commenting earlier, her son Josh, who just graduated from high school, when he was 2 years old, I received my first iPhone, and it was Thanksgiving, and I was here, and I was trying to figure out how to operate this darn thing, and he grabbed it, he said, bro, I show you. 2 years old, he somehow figured out how to operate my iPhone, and I couldn't even figure it out. They're a beautiful family. I love the Shanks. Chris has, I met Chris when he was in college, and look who he is today. I feel like I've watched Chris grow up too. I feel like, they watched me grow up. Bob and Barb watched me grow up and my brothers. And then I got to watch Cindy grow up and Michelle. And now I get to watch Cindy's kids grow up. And they are growing up. So it's going to be exciting to see what the next generation of now Shanks will bring to the world. And in the tradition that Barb instilled in me, with the love and nurturing of friendship that she gave to me, the time that she invested in me, I in turn am investing that into her only granddaughter, Lily, who I am blessed to say is my goddaughter and a very, very special part of my life. I am truly blessed to have a very special and close relationship with Lily. So thank you, Aunt Barbie. We will never forget you. We love you. Thank you.
Next, I would like to ask Angie Johnson to come on up. She's going to read a poem selected by Mom's very best friend, Bonnie Goshen, who I need to acknowledge is here, and I'm so excited to see her. So, and I also want to acknowledge that Angie's mom and my mom were cousins and very close, so friendship's very important.
Hi. In case you haven't figured it out, I'm adopted. That's why I didn't look like the rest of them. My mom and Barb and Paul were very close for a long time. This is best friend. You are my best friend. You belong in my heart. We go through ups and downs, but still nothing can tear us apart. I know you as a sister, and I will always care. Love, respect, and trust are the things we share. I know you as a person. I especially know you as a friend. Our friendship is something that will never end. Right now, this second, this minute, this day, our sisterhood is here to stay. My friendship with you is special and true. When we are together, we stick like glue. When I'm in the dark, does it need some light? When you're by my side, I know things are all right. Our friendship is so strong, it breaks down bars. Our friendship is also bright, like the sun and the stars. If we were in a competition for friendships, we would get it gold, because responsibility and cleverness are the keys we hold. I met you as a stranger, but took you as a friend. I hope our long friendship will never end. Our friendship is like a magnet, it pulls us together, because no matter where we are, our friendship will last forever.
All right, my turn now. So, again, it's still very nice to see you. I am also very excited to see the sun, and it pretty incredible timing that right at 2 o'clock is when all the rain cleared, and we to see the clouds part and now it feels like just a beautiful sunny day, like it should have been from the start. All right, so I've had several months to prepare for this. I'm still not ready, so we'll get through it. And the most difficult part was trying to distill almost, but not quite, 50 years worth of memories and love and thoughts down into these remarks. I worked hard and I did it. And I want you to know I managed to get it down to just. We'll get through it together too. Anyway, so I've been thinking a lot about the ways that I can honor mom in my life moving forward. And I came down to virtues that I would like to carry with me that mom had, and I'd like to share those with. Mom was a lover of many things, so let's hit some of the highlights. So with her people, because she loved her people, and dad is tops on that list. Now, you'll hear more about the love, and you heard more from Rhonda. I wasn't privy to that part of their relationship, but I knew that they weren't the kind of people who shared the exact same thoughts and ideas and ways of thinking. They were complementary to each other in their strengths and their weaknesses. I learned a lot about relationships in that way. Sometimes, every once in a while, they would think alike, though. I remember hearing, I don't know whether it was a Valentine's Day or an anniversary, but the two of them bought each other the exact same cards and exchanged them. Like, oh, that looks familiar. So every once in a while, those thoughts crossed, and they were pretty similar. She loved her daughters, Shelly and I. And she loved the older relatives that Rhonda mentioned: Aunt Ruth, Aunt Delphi, Pop, my grandmother Catudal, my grandfather Catudal. She was the caregiver. She was the one who would step up and take care of them when they needed it. And I was always so moved and impressed by the amount of compassion and kindness that she was able to just show naturally. It just always amazed me. She loved her grandkids, Caleb and Joshua and Lily. They were her pride and joy. She was a protector, advocate, and comforter for all of us, always. She loved her friends like they were family. So if you're thinking you missed out because you weren't actually related, you didn't. You were just like, you were in our, so you got all of that as well. I don't know if you've figured this out, but mom loves to talk. One of her strong suits. So talking, goodness. So she loved to have conversations, and Rhonda may have mentioned mentioned her conversations with mom, but it might have been hard sometimes talking to her to get a word in edgewise because she would just keep on talking. So you kind of had to mom, and then eventually you could get some words in there. She enjoyed talking with friends and family, and I can imagine we had some pretty high phone bills back in the days of long distance. Yeah. She talked to cashiers at the grocery store and the department store. Usually after buying the most embarrassing thing, and I wanted to run somewhere else, but she'd have a full conversation with them, probably about the underwear she was buying for me. And sometimes she would talk to the TV, and I think she even talked to herself sometimes. Talked to the animals. She everybody and enjoyed talking. So many times growing up, when Shelly or I were in trouble, we would manage to get her to give us a lecture instead of a punishment. I don't know. I think it worked out. We're okay. She loved things as well, like her desserts. The more chocolate, the better. Wasn't my favorite, but I know she loved her chocolate. She loved the drawing and the knitting and the crocheting. And I want to make sure that I say this now for everybody to hear. Inside, there is a tray full of her little yarn dolls that she made decades and decades ago. Tried to sell them for $1. I don't think she sold many, but I want to take one with you as a reminder. She loved playing her computer games. She had to have her hands had to be busy. She always had to keep moving with her hands. She loved her Diet Pepsi after she, between her iced tea and her Diet Pepsi, she loved both of those. She loved playing mini golf. That was always a vacation priority. Find the mini golf. Her favorite movie was Mamma Mia. She would sing along. She loved the fireworks also, and she could see a lot of them from this view. So or if you've spent time around mom, you should know that she also loved to laugh. She had an unusual sense of humor sometimes. Body humor was probably one of her favorites. It's no wonder I teach human anatomy and physiology now. I get to teach about what she liked to laugh about. So she used to use a few examples of her humor I'd like to share with you. So one, she loved tongue twisters, and especially when we were younger, she would teach us these things, and the more we would mess them up, the funnier it was. So I'm gonna attempt one here, and we'll try not to mess it up. But if I mess it up, it'll be funny. All right, so this is the one. It's well, you'll see. All right, so this one she taught us: smart fellow, fellow smart. I smart fellow, I fellow smart. That's how you're supposed to say it. But use your imagination and say it over and over again, and you'll get the funny part of it. She would also repeat something that Pop used to say when they had vegetables for dinner. Pop would say, "Now eat every carrot and pee on the table." Yes, that's her sense of humor. Back in the old days when we would have long car rides, like between here and Montgomery County, and an hour without an electronic device to mom could have been stressful. She would find the most rundown, almost ready to fall over structure, and she'd go, "That's my house. Still, I get a new one." So it was a contest for who could find the one that was the most terrible. That was our house until we get a new one. I told that to my kids. We've been doing that in the car lately with us. One time, after she had her stroke, and her stroke affected her ability to talk and to find the words, and as she was recovering, and she had a remarkable recovery, she was I remember being here, and she was working on a grocery list for us. So she was writing down all of the things she needed, and she wrote down, she's like, "Well, I need eggs." So she wrote down eggs. She looked at me, she goes, "How do you spell eggs?" I said, "EGGS." She looked at what she wrote, she repeated EGGS. She's like, "That doesn't look right." I said, "Here, let me see." So I took the paper. She wrote down EDDS, EDS instead. So I said, "No, that's fine, Mom. I'll get you some EDS. Tell me, you want young EDS, old EDS, motorcycle riding EDS? We'll get you EDS." So that became a picture back from the house in Colesville. Again, body humor. She, at one point, redid the bathrooms. I think she went from paint to wallpaper, and she found this wallpaper, and this is late 70s at best. And it was essentially these cartoon drawings of naked people, like naked cartoon people, white people, but they had towels on in just the right places. So I don't know how many years I watched those people on my wall in the bathroom. Thought my mom is weird. And just the ultimate sort of expression of her sense of humor. I will never forget how many times we watched, and she made everyone watch, the campfire scene from Blazing Saddles. So if you haven't seen that in a while, or if you never, I'll tell you later, and I can also tell you more saucy stories then. But that was that was like hysterical, laughing, crying, because she found that to be incredibly funny. Celebrate. Mom loved to celebrate. She loved all the holidays as well as everyday celebrations. So we heard about the Thanksgivings. Those were always a favorite. But celebrations for mom were always a time to share food and laughter with family and friends. A lot of times they happened right here at this house in front of this bay. She was always up for a party. 4th of July, we had a couple of big parties. We had a big party for an anniversary here, and graduations and birthdays. So always time to celebrate. So it's only fitting that we have this final celebration for mom here. Loved, and let me just go back to love, and I almost forgot something that she loved dearly. This view, and her was right inside that window, and she, even if she was watching TV, she could always look out here and see what was going on, see the boats, see the water, see the birds. So this view is why she wanted this house. And she did. She found the house. So some of the celebrations that I remember, Christmas decorations everywhere. In fact, how many boxes are downstairs, Dad, of Christmas decorations? 20 boxes. So, if you want to do some Christmas shopping, let us know. We'll let you down there. You can start. We had presents, Christmas lights. In fact, in her little space there, which is 3 sides has windows, she would hang the little Christmas lights on all the windows, especially the side ones, and then you get the reflection, and it would look like endless Christmas lights from her view there. So she loved that. Cookie decorating was also another big part of our Christmas celebration. There are pictures going back to my early childhood. She would take the wax paper, she would put it down on the table, she'd get cans of frosting, sprinkles, some plastic knives, and food coloring, and she would just let us go at it. We would just make a huge mess and hopefully a cookie or two. Maybe if we were lucky. She also did that many years when our boys were little, and they would come down here, and she would have cookies for them to decorate for our Christmas celebration. I got to tell you, when Mom was in college, obviously she did very well, and she got her degree. She hated with a passion. She had to pass college algebra. She hated math, didn't like it at all, and I know she struggled so hard. But I'll tell you what, I think there was a lot of celebration. She got that C in college algebra, which was the minimum that she needed, but she did it. Parties here, there was one anniversary party, and you can see the picture inside of it lined up along in front of the deck there. She was very proud of that party and everyone who came. And so we have the big picture, but then I know from that day there are also a lot of other pictures that I cherish very much of people who are no longer. And then, Thanksgiving that Rhonda mentioned, I learned everything I know about Thanksgiving from my mom. So when we moved to the area almost 6 years ago, Mom said, you know what, why don't you start doing Thanksgiving? She was getting tired. It was getting too much for her to host. So since then, we've been doing it, roasting the turkey. We've never bought a turkey too big for our oven. Make the gravy, the stuffing, and mashed potatoes. But I will always appreciate her Thanksgiving feasts, and I absolutely try to do my best, just like she did. So I am so thankful for all of the love and the life lessons that Mom had for me. So today, as we are together, I want to focus on the love that we had for Mom and that she had for us, and I want to celebrate her with as much laughter as possible. I wanted to open up this time for anyone else who wanted to come and share a few words. Otherwise, we'll hear from you during the reception part. But is there anyone who would like to come up and say a few things? And Hazer's going to come up.
Good afternoon. I'm Ken Hazer, and I'm a friend with 4 daughters. 2 of those daughters grew up with Cindy and Michelle. I have a reading here, just one page. I wanted to share this with you all. I hope it's worthy. It's my words. It's Barbara's words. Some time ago, I realized I was very angry about what was happening to Ellen, who's my wife. I could not imagine the loss I would feel, much less how Ken, the girls, and other friends would cope without this lovely, gentle woman. My anger was but fueled by the sight of the devastation left upon her body. There was no karmic justice in taking a woman so young and who had so many wonderful life's events to look forward to. I read this because I wanted you to find out just what a friend and person Barbara was. I've been fortunate to spend time with Ellen through this ordeal. More time than I found in past years kept me busy with work, family, and events. The joyous and proud times eked out by the Hazer family were a privilege to share. Cheryl's birthday party and first home, Laura's bridal shower and wedding, Karen's return to school and growing parenting skills, as well as Teresa's independence and college graduation. Yet I tasted the bittersweetness of those moments. I know I would soon lose sight of Ellen's face, never again hear the sound of her voice, or observe the uniqueness of her mannerisms. All this would be lost, and I mourned long before the day arrived. I thought I would be left with fading memories and old photos. But that's not entirely true. If I look at Cheryl, Karen, Laura, and Teresa, I can still see Ellen. She is still with us. Each lovely daughter is genetically one half her mother. This one's smile and that one's eyes are living pieces of Ellen that will continue and pass to future generations. All these young women surmount this awful loss. They keep their mother alive within them. They will always have the memories of their shared experiences. Those experiences became part of who they are. In this way, Ellen continues to be a part of their future, their joys and triumphs, accomplishments and rewards. Each time I remember Ellen or tell the story of things we did together, I will recognize this in a part of who I am. Thank you, Ellen, for being a part of my life, and thank you for your family for keeping me part of her immortal.
Would anyone else like to say anything? Hello, I'm Lily. Now we are gonna do a release of flower petals. So we're gonna line up on the pier and first get some flower petals, and then we're gonna do a countdown and then throw them into the water. All right, so you'll grab some petals from Lily on your way, and we'll just line the pier, and then we'll throw them in together. For those with small children, please don't release them into the water. There is a retrieval fee. All right. Stand up. Move those legs. Stand up before they fly away. Huh? All right. No, that's fine.
That's all wood. Yeah.
All right, up next we have our words of committal that my son Caleb's going to read. So on the back of your program, if you would like to follow along, the words are there for you.
Barb, your life we honor, your passing we accept. Your memory we cherish, and although there is grief today as we say goodbye, there is so much gratitude for your life, for your strength of character and being the face of reassurance in times of difficulty. Thank you. For your understanding, unwavering support, and devotion to your family and friends. Thank you. For your perseverance through hardships and the many times we laughed together. Thank you. We know that we don't need to look far find evidence of your presence in our lives. When the waves dance carelessly on the bay and the eagle flies overhead, we will remember you. When the snow falls in the chill of winter and the flowers open in the rebirth of spring, we will remember you. When the fireworks sparkle in the warmth of summer and the leaves rustle in the golden luster of fall, we will remember you. Barb, everything you have done in your life is still done. Everyone you love is still loved. You will continue to shine and light our way as we laugh, love, and live, honor your memory. And so, leave you in peace until we meet again.
All right, before we conclude with our service, we have a surprise guest speaker. Bob, Dad, has decided he wants to share a few stories with us.
I'm not a public speaker, but we'll give it a shot. The program states we have blind dates that we met. And it was a blind date for Barbara, but I didn't even know I had a date that night. If you remember the movie American Graffiti, the guys would get the car around, pick up people, and they get together and they do something. Well, that's what we did here with Marilyn Olsen. And I was extremely shy. So this one night we're driving around and we stopped this house and a couple of gals on the floor. So were you there? Okay. Anyhow, they say, Bob, you got to get out of the car and come to the door first. So I said, oh. So I go to the barber shop and they say, Bob, this is Barbara. Barbara, this is Bob. Use your date for tonight. Yeah, right. So we go back to the car. We're going to pick up some more people in the neighborhood. And it was a little crowded. Somebody else was driving the car for some reason. So anyhow, just met this gal. And she just sit in my lap on the rest of the trip around the neighborhood. So So as we're driving around, I'm sitting there thinking, I got this beautiful 16-year-old girl sitting in my lap. Man, life is good. So we couldn't figure out what we wanted to do. So Barbara said, well, we have a pool table in our basement. We can go there. And so we said, all right, we'll go to your house and try that. So we get back to her house. We start playing in the living room. Her mother and father watching TV. All these kids come in. Mother says, how many cars did you come in? And where'd you park them? I said, well, we have one car. She counted out the kids. We had 12 kids. So that's how we met. And it took me a lot of nerve, but that week, next week, I asked her, went to 5 to 9 when she was working. I said, you wouldn't want to go out this next weekend, would you? She said, yes. I almost fell down. So that's how we started. And so we started dating regular. And then after a couple months of dating, I guess, we were coming back probably from the drive-in. And they're playing a song on the radio. And she starts singing along with it. And the song is, I want to be Bobby's girl. So she keeps singing. So I look at her, I said, you really want to be Bobby's girl? She says, yes. So I take my high school ring off and give it to her. And I said, all right, now we're going steady. So that's how we got started. And we continued dating, and she knew already I was going to go on a date. So like 8 months after we met, they went off to boot camp for 3 years to date. And like I said before, she was a writer, so she always writing letters. And we known each other for 11 months. And we picked out an engagement ring together. Now, I never asked her to marry me. She never asked me to marry her. We just know it's going to happen. But the problem was when her mother saw that, she's a senior in high school. Her mother flipped out. It didn't like me at all. That was 2 strikes against me. So, just lost the train there. So, that's how we got going. And I guess another little story is, again, Barbara's a prolific writer. And she would write me every day to Navy, especially when I was stationed on the ship. And I'd get at least 1, sometimes 2 letters a day. And we didn't get a mail call every day. Sometimes I'd get 4, 5, 6 letters. And I had a division of 30 people, and the other guys would get 6 for all of them. I was getting extremely jealous. So after our 8-month deployment in Southeast Asia and Vietnam, we're coming back to the States. We had an assembly on the flight deck by division. I worked in the weapons division. And so the division officer, Lieutenant Richards, was going through and checking out the sailors, make sure they're straight enough to get the awards they're going to get. And he comes to me, he says, Catudal, you got to start spending more of your money. And you got to re-enlist in the Navy. And you got to get rid of the girlfriend of yours. I looked back and says, no, sir, no to all 3. So at that point, my parents didn't like Barbara. Her parents didn't like me. And my commanding officer didn't like Barbara either. So everybody was against it, but yeah, it worked out in the end. And then, like the final cool story is that when you're in the military and you're away from home, there's a couple things you don't want to get. One is orders to go into combat, and the other is a Dear John letter from your sweetie back home. And I've seen guys break down and cry when they got those letters. Well, Barbara wrote a lot. So that was one of the ones she wrote. She wrote me a Dear John letter when I was in Albuquerque and going to Navy school in Albuquerque. And I wrote up those Dear Bob. And then it was that ring. Just to go back a little bit on the ring. When we went to the jeweler, I had a limited budget. He brings up one ring. It's got an itty bitty teeny weeny diamond on it. And that was the one we said, all right, the price is right. So we get that. But the jeweler would not sell us the wedding bands. We figured we'd never make it. So Anyway, back to the Dear John letter. I was in Albuquerque, so we kept calling once a week every Friday. And we decided a couple weeks later, all right, we'll try to get that spring back to Silver Spring. Then next thing, I'm over in the Seattle area. I got another letter. Dear Bob, and then ETB Diamond Ring is in there. And so it's there again on the phone, and we said, all right, we'll try it again. Ring goes back to her, back to Silver Spring. And then the last, she sent 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 Dear John letters on my tour there. And the last one, we just pulled out of the Philippines heading for the Tonkin Gulf close to Vietnam. There's no internet, there's no phones. I can't do anything other than send her letters. She'll get a week later. So this time, of course, it was like 3 months. And they said, oh, let's try it again. So I put the ring in the letter. So it goes from aircraft carrier in Tonkin Gulf to Saigon to San Francisco to Silver Spring. Yep. Nobody stole it, wasn't damaged. So that's the one she ended up wearing. But let me just circle back to the Seattle ring where I got the ring in Seattle. I said, that's the second time, that's enough. So I took a ferry boat ride from Bremerton, Washington over to Seattle and a bus to downtown Seattle. And I go to the guy and he gets the thing and checks it out. And says, I give you $15. Now I paid $70 for that ring back in Silver Spring. And I said, give me another $10, make it 25, and you can keep the ring. He says, nope, I'll give you the $15. I said, hell of it. I put it back in my pocket. And the story was she got it back, and we ended up, that was her ring before we got married. And the thing is now, to this day, I have to remind Cindy and my grandson, I got to tell them, but for $10. So I can close it by saying, but for $10, none of us be here now. And thank you, Barb. That's it.
All right, so that concludes our program. I do have a couple of thank yous that I want to mention, and then we'll give you your orders here to have a lot of fun. So thank you for all coming out here, those of you who joined us in person, and thank you for those who joined virtually. Your comfort and support over the last months has been greatly appreciated. I want to thank my son Joshua, in charge of the sound system here, along with some other things like the slideshow that's inside. If you take a look at that, I want to thank Alex Miller, who stepped up at the last minute to be in charge of our live stream. As you can see, he's really keeping close tabs on that one. It's a tough job. I want to thank my cousin Rhonda, who's been here for everything and has helped me with every step, and I appreciate that. I want to thank Chris for keeping me sane and getting through this. And I want to thank Dad. He did such a good job with getting the house ready for this event and for sharing with us. And I'll leave you with this. Make sure to ask him lots of questions, one of which is, where did that picture come from on the cover of the program? Because there's a story about that one too. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is enjoy. We have more food than I can even imagine inside, so I want you to eat enough for 3 people. We have lots of drinks out on the porch, and sunshade. Take your pick wherever you wanna be, and thank you again for coming today. Honor Mom.
Hey, Doug.